For a few thousandths of a second, a bridge of electricity connects a storm cloud 5 kilometers up to a single point on the ground. And if that point happens to be a person, something almost unbelievable happens to their body. A lightning bolt is hotter than the surface of the sun. It carries enough current to power a small town for an instant. By every intuition you have, being hit by it should be an immediate death sentence. And yet, roughly 9 out of 10 people struck by lightning survive. That gap between how violent the strike is and how many people walk away is one of the strangest facts in human physiology. And explaining it means slowing one of the fastest events in nature down to a crawl. Start with what is actually hitting you. A bolt of lightning is a channel of superheated electrified air. The current running through it is on the order of 30,000 amperes, tens of thousands of times more than what flows through the wires in your walls. As that current tears through the air, it heats the channel to somewhere around 30,000 Kelvin. That is roughly 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun, and it happens in a fraction of a second. The heat is so sudden and so extreme that the air itself explodes outward, and that shockwave of violently expanding air is the thunder you hear. So when lightning finds you, you are not being touched by fire or by a falling object. You are standing at the connection point of a circuit that is briefly hotter than a star. Given all that, the obvious question is why anyone survives at all. And the answer is a beautiful quirk of physics called the flashover effect. When the current reaches your body, it faces a choice about which path to take, and electricity always prefers the path of least resistance. Your skin, especially if it is wet with rain or sweat, conducts electricity reasonably well along its surface. Your insides, full of organs and fluids, are actually a slightly harder path. So in a huge number of strikes, most of the enormous current does not plunge down through your core. Instead, it races over the outside of your body, across your wet skin, in the few milliseconds the strike lasts, and jumps back off into the ground. That external flash is often violent enough to blow your shoes off, tear your clothes, and leave burns where metal touched your skin, like a zipper or a necklace heating up. But because the bulk of the current traveled over you rather than through you, your vital organs can be spared the worst of it. The flashover is, in a very real sense, why lightning strikes are so survivable. The current takes the shortcut, and the shortcut is the outside of you. But some of that current does get inside, and this is where the real danger lies, and it is not where most people expect. Ask someone what kills you in a lightning strike, and they will say, burning. In fact, the most common cause of death is your heart. Your heartbeat is itself an electrical rhythm, generated and timed by tiny electrical pulses in the muscle. When a jolt of lightning current passes through your chest, it can completely scramble that rhythm, throwing the heart into a chaotic quiver or stopping it dead in an instant. The lightning acts like a monstrous, uncontrolled version of the electric shock a defibrillator gives, except instead of restarting a healthy rhythm, it wipes out the one you had. Most people who die from lightning die this way, in the first moments, from cardiac arrest. Here is the twist that saves lives, though. The human heart has a strange, almost lucky property. It has its own built-in pacemaker, a cluster of cells that naturally wants to generate a beat. So after lightning stops the heart, that pacemaker will sometimes spontaneously kick the heart back into rhythm on its own, within seconds. The lethal problem is what happens next. The lightning also stuns the part of the brainstem that controls breathing, and that paralysis can last much longer than the heart's pause. So you can end up with a heart that has restarted, beating away, in a body that has stopped breathing. And without air, the heart will soon fail again from lack of oxygen. This is the single most important reason lightning first aid saves so many people. A victim who looks dead often only needs someone to breathe for them and do chest compressions until their own breathing catches up. Prompt CPR after a lightning strike has an unusually high success rate because underneath the crisis, the body is often mostly intact and just needs a bridge back to running itself. For those who survive, the lightning frequently leaves its signature written across the skin. Sometimes, in the hours after a strike, a pattern blooms over the body that looks like the branches of a fern, or a bolt of frozen red lightning spreading across the chest, the arm, the back. These are called Lichtenberg figures, and people have long called them lightning flowers. They trace the paths the current took across the surface of the skin, mapping the flashover in reddish, feathery lines. Unlike a normal burn scar, they are usually not permanent, and they tend to fade over days as the body heals. For a brief window, though, a survivor carries a literal drawing of the electricity that passed through them. The rest of the aftermath comes from all the delicate systems that do not like being near 30,000 amps. The pressure blast can rupture eardrums, so many survivors wake with damaged hearing. The nervous system, being electrical itself, often takes a lasting hit. Survivors report memory problems, difficulty concentrating, chronic pain, numbness, mood changes, and sometimes temporary paralysis of the limbs in the minutes after the strike, a condition specific to lightning, where the arms or legs go pale, cold, and briefly useless before slowly recovering. Even the eyes can suffer, with some survivors developing cataracts weeks or months later. Lightning does not simply hurt and heal. It can quietly rewire how the body works for years, which is why survivors so often describe themselves as changed people, not just people who got a bad shock. And one last myth, because your body's survival can depend on it. People love to say that lightning never strikes the same place twice. That is completely false. Lightning strikes tall towers and mountaintops over and over, because the same features that attracted it the first time attract it every time. There is even a park ranger who was struck by lightning 7 separate times over his life and survived all 7. So the lesson your body would give you, if it could talk, is not that you are safe because it already happened nearby. It is that a bolt hotter than the sun is survivable mostly by luck and physics, the flashover racing over your skin, your heart's stubborn little pacemaker, and someone willing to breathe for you until you can breathe for yourself. Respect the storm, get indoors, and let the lightning strike an empty field instead. Your body explained. This is Bodyling.